All right, so first things first.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, yeah. Exciting to do gigs again for sure. Just been like in a bubble with that. Like it used to be so normal for me to play shows, you know. Like the stage was kind of like a living room, I used to say.
Sure.
So it's like you go up there, it's like, oh, you know, back to, I don't know, where I'm supposed to be kind of. Yeah, but it's been, you know, a few years now since I've done like touring. So yeah, need to get back on it, back on a horse.
What has it been like for someone who is a songwriter, someone who is creative, to write songs with no real perspective of when you can play them live again?
I don't know. I like definitely haven't thought of it that much. Like when I create, I don't think I've ever done a record. Maybe in America we did like a record. We're kind of lucky because we're touring all the time. So even when we're writing tunes, you can just like try them out, sound checks or live or whatever. There's no rules. And there was also like not that many people filming back then, I guess, as much as they do now.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's about the tune first, and then if you're lucky, you can play quite a lot of them live. Sometimes you can't, you know, they just don't work live or whatever. But it's normally like a 50-50, you know, if there's 10 tunes, it's like 5 tunes maybe that you play live. Plus like the crowd normally wants to hear some oldies, like quite a few oldies. So I know that feeling. I remember like going to see bands that I loved and they played tons of new tunes I didn't know. I was like, kind of exciting, but also you always want to hear some of the bangers.
Yeah, but you raise an interesting dichotomy, and this is obviously for people who have those songs that they are known for. Obviously, everybody wants to hear the songs, but then you have to also balance pushing new stuff and trying to evolve as an artist. So for you, like for one that I remember from the early days from you guys is Old Man Chicago, which I really loved. But I can imagine, do you still enjoy playing a song like that?
I kind of do these days, especially like if people react, you know. But yeah, I mean, also like that record, it's been with me and it was so like pure. And I wrote most of those songs in like a week or something. Like I wrote like, it was just some really good flow.
How come?
I guess it was before I got signed, so I was just excited to write music and stuff. And it was beginning like with me and Terry, like just really excited about the tunes. And like I'm just playing the new sound kind of Alberta Cross was for us.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's also kind of like a record we're thinking about reissuing soon, which is cool. Like, I want to like put it on vinyl. It was never on vinyl. So,
all right.
So yeah, we're looking into that.
But that's as a songwriter then, if you quickly think about that era of songwriting, you say it was very pure. How has your songwriting developed since then in your own mind?
I feel like I always try to come back to that, basically. Okay. The pure, like, I don't know, it captures something. It was like not forced. I mean, that's always the best craft, really. When you don't feel like the pressure from like industry or anything like that, which I feel like we felt in America a little bit in between records. At least like the second and third, there was like a lot of pressure of making it sound a certain way or whatever, maybe. But now I like always trying to get back to the pureness of things, and like that's when it feels the best. I feel like I'm kind of back there now. Also being back in England, it does something to me. Like it inspires me a lot to be back there. It feels like, for me, kind of, I don't know, it just brings out like a bit, it gets a bit more real or something. I mean, I love America and all that. It's not about that, it's just what it does to me personally. I think like England is always like, I don't know, brought something good out of me, like you know. But that could also be like you're pissed off about politics or whatever. It could be anything, but like you see that quite a lot, and it's like, I don't know, it could be anything. But the songs normally turn out pretty good, I feel like.
I don't know if you live there, but you recorded the album in Frome, if I'm not...
Frome.
Frome, sorry. Well, then I have the Wool Hall. How would you describe that area? And you mentioned kind of being back in England, and what made that period of recording with, I have to find his name, Luke. What made that so fruitful for this new record?
Well, I was like looking at getting out. I've been living, big cities for like 20 years.
Sure.
So I was just like ready to move out. Even when I lived in New York, we were like thinking about moving up to like upstate New York, like Woodstock or the Catskill Mountains, because it's like a lot of artists up there and great sort of community and this beautiful nature, just being out, in nature basically. And,
especially in Woodstock, where the band, I think the band moved up there to
record
their stuff. So that's an interesting place to be as a musician, I suppose.
Definitely, and it's like so many artists out there now, like really good stuff out there. But so moving out of America, like I was in Berlin briefly, and then moved back to London. I kind of felt straight away that I didn't want to be like in London really.
Sure.
And also I didn't use it as much anymore, So then it's like pointless. You're paying 3 times more money to live somewhere, and you're not even like out and about,
Sure.
So I was kind of looking pretty quick to move out. And Luke, we started recording the record when he was in East London and in Stoke Newington, Hackney. And then he moved out, and then I sort of started to take a train out there to like record, basically.
Sure.
I just loved it. And we have like very similar sort of taste, I feel like, in most things. So like, it just felt like it's such a beautiful spot. And Frome is like, and the neighboring like towns, villages are very similar to upstate New York, and like it's tons of artists out there and music communities and studios and stuff like that. So it's like quite inspiring. And you're only like an hour and a bit from London anyway with a train. So. But it's good, and Wool Hall, is such a special studio.
Sure.
Van Morrison used to have it for years, and he lived next door, and it was like his own studio. And then Tears for Fears took it over, and they made like their biggest records there.
Right.
And then the Smiths recorded in there, their last record. Johnny Mitchell's there. I mean, it's been tons of people, so you can feel it.
Yeah, is it important to be in a room where that will be my question? Could you feel kind of the history of the room, and then is it important to be in a room that you feel not only comfortable in, but that has that kind of that drives that inspiration in a way? Yeah,
I think so, and I feel like with Wool Hall, because it's Luke's place too, and in the past obviously I've been in a lot of like bigger studios and stuff, and I always feel like you kind of feel the pressure of the time, and like it's so, crazy expensive to be in there, basically. And you have a really restricted like time slot, like to get stuff done. And with Luke's place, you're just like, we're just in our little own bubble. There's no other, artists around, and you can just focus on your thing and don't feel that pressure really. It's like it has, so that's always been good. I did a similar thing with my self-titled record, like in 2015. I went up to a studio called Dreamland, which is pretty similar. It was like in an old church in upstate New York, and also felt quite relaxed there. So it reminded me a bit of that, Wool Hall. But you can kind of sense that it's been stuff's been made there,
Right,
you can feel it. Obviously Luke's studio, he brought in his own studio into the studio, so all his gear is there. He's got amazing stuff and a great ear. So it's been a good creative spot for us, for sure. Yeah, and you've worked with him before, so it must be very comfortable to be in that surrounding where you kind of feel like home. Definitely. When you started making those trips up there from London, I think then, to what extent were the songs already fleshed out? Or how many songs did you have fleshed out? Was it just to record in a way, or did you also do some of the writing and kind of developing those songs there? Yeah, well, we had, so I started doing some stuff like Mercy and Sinking Ships, Come to a Place, like a few songs. I kind of started to record at home, and I sent them to my friend, actually my old best buddy in Sweden, and he's a bit of a Brian Eno dude. He's got like this basement basically with a spaceship, just like synthesizers and just pedals and racks of this crazy gear, amazing stuff. So he makes like landscapes basically. So that's kind of how we started. Like I had, Mercy, the melody and the guitar riff and stuff, and I sent it to him, and he just like created this kind of landscape. And that's what I brought into Luke to start the record, and Luke got really excited about what that was. And then obviously Luke, added tons of production to it, like big drums and beautiful stuff too. So like it was quite an interesting process, this one, because the last record we did together was from scratch. I used to just like basically go there. I had a few ideas beforehand, but we also wrote like the song "What We Frightened Of." That was our first writing session. We just it just came out, and then that's kind of how you like a lot of it was like we just started a lot from scratch. But with this one, it was some of the stuff was brought in like with the sound idea, I guess.
If we take the title track and Sinking Ships, what was the starting point for that song? Do you start with a bit of music? Do you have certain words that spring to mind, or? That one, yeah. I think like it always just comes out of, I guess an idea of like me just playing with like tons of pedals in my studio, just like creating a few landscapes on my own, and then like melodies come, and then I feel like with that one, lyrically, like I think me and Luke kind of wrote it together, coming out of some like, some ideas, some topics that I had in mind, or like talking about life or whatever. I wrote down from the line that I wrote down is this kind of the main line: "We are all sinking ships on the water." And what it reminded me of, whether it's the correct interpretation or not, but it reminded me of the line by Bob Dylan: "Who he not busy being born is busy dying." Kind of that sense that whatever you do, it's change is inevitable and all that kind of stuff. So, what was the inspiration for that behind that song?
I feel like. We're in a venue. I guess it's like quite symbolic, that song for me. Like, and that was the same with Mercy, really, like big sort of topics. But I guess for me, it was just like about life, and also like a bit of the struggles and like where the world is. I guess for me at the moment, like this is pretty weird place, and like. In most countries, which is crazy, like I look at my home, like Sweden, where I'm from, and it's like, like where it used to be when I was a kid to where it is now, it's very different. Like the political landscape is just mental, and this is obviously the same in England and like, and in America it's mental.
Same here as well.
Same here, yeah. It's just like such a crazy place, and I feel like we're gone backwards basically, and like it's just. Been a weird feeling, and like that whole thing about the world and like what that does to your mental health as well. Like, feeling like almost like hopeless in a way, but plowing along anyway, just moving, can't let it bring it down too much. But I feel like that was the topic of it. It's like, where the hell are we? Why we're here? Like, we're in England, it's like Brexit and all this kind of stuff. Like, none of the young people in the whole of England wanted that. It just feels like it's a bunch of old people that voted for something and they're going to die soon, and then we're going to be left with this like just nightmare.
The last couple of years really feel intense, and I think the way internet works, it makes it even worse on your mind. So
that's the whole thing. I was talking about that yesterday. Like. Just the social media, just everything, like you just see so much stuff and like what it does to you. Just kind of a bizarre life.
And it's so black and white. There's no nuance on the internet.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is mental.
But obviously that is the title track. So is that kind of the end of if I understand correctly, that kind of encompasses what the album is in general about?
I feel so. I feel like Mercy and Sinking Ships, but from both me and Luke, I feel like it's kind of what the record is, and then the other stuff is like, other genres, but that's like really, Mercy was the first song that where Luke and me got really excited, like what the emotion was and like the topics kind of, I didn't think much when I was writing those first lyrics to Mercy, I never like tried, normally I don't try to like overthink stuff, so I'm just like, whatever comes naturally, just out of playing, and those lyrics were kind of like touching that topic where we're talking about
Yeah,
the world and like, you know, that's the main thing. But I've been talking a lot about like mental health too. Obviously, like stopped because I've been traveling forever and like stopping and, you know, like just life catching up with you, you know. So it's like about that I'm going through, and then also about the world and like everything affecting everyone kind of.
But you raise a very interesting point, which is kind of the mental health for, in my opinion, a traveling musician, because we've seen in the electronic music sector that a lot of people kind of had burnouts, were too exhausted, their mental health was really screwed up.
Yeah.
And obviously we know what happened to Avicii, and then that's just one of the sectors, and there are more. And I hear this a lot from musicians. So what is... And you've been, like you say, you've been touring the majority of your life, and you're not living in your home country, just traveling around, living in these big cities. Yeah. How do you balance everything mentally?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I feel like I never thought about it. You know, like, so I moved to London when I was a teenager, and then, you know, music has always been like what I wanted to do. So in early years of London, we were just literally like, music was everything. Rehearsed all night, never slept, like worked in like any kind of job just to pay the rent, and then it's like basically never slept. We used to like, I remember working, and then like my bandmates come over, we sit and write all night, and then just go straight to work, like just crazy stuff. So we didn't even think, and then like it was all, you know, yeah, we wanted to get signed and like start to do it professionally, like, and all that kind of stuff, obviously. And then when you get signed, then everything's just a roller coaster, and it's exciting, and then you're touring and everything's good, but then you just keep on going, and then there's another record, and there's another record, and you know, we move around, like, you know, after the first Thief and Heartbreak, we moved to America, and then that was really exciting. So it's like very positive stuff, but also stuff that's not so positive, like basically you don't take care of yourself. Or like in the early 20s, touring around America non-stop for years. It was really fun, and it became norm. And then you just didn't think about like how you never stopped, basically. So like you never gave like your mind a chance, basically. And I feel like because it was like, you know, a lot of good times, but definitely like some anxiety, depression coming on, sometimes being away from home always and stuff like that. And then you never, like, you just pushed it aside, kind of.
Because you have to keep going.
You have to keep going. In America, they say, my management basically said, like, if you stopped touring, you're dead as a band.
Wow.
Because you have to, like, be, you know, people's...
relevant.
I kind of agree with, but it's not healthy. I also don't agree with it at all, you know?
Sure.
Especially not these days. But yeah, for me, it was just like I kept going, and then moving out of America, coming back here, and then when I kind of stopped, like the last record is a lot about like the transit, that like, you know, I've always been moving around, and like you leave your home country, and I've actually been abroad for longer than I lived in Sweden, which is also a weird thing.
Yeah.
But then this record is more like, okay, now we stop. Like, I've stopped now. I'm not transiting. Like, everything's kind of catched up. And that's so happened when I just moved out of America to Berlin for a brief minute. Like, the first time I started to take like antidepressants and stuff, because I was like, yeah, losing my mind a bit. But, you know, it was also healthy to like stop and like give, you know,
to have that reflection.
Taking that time and like, yeah, exactly. And like, you know, okay, cool, something's not right here. Like, how do I deal with that? And that was like my journey, but you know, I've seen it with so many mates.
Oh yeah,
like all our, like not people in the music industry, like all my artist mates, obviously, like all been going through it. But also like outside of music, like in people's lives. And for me, that happened before COVID.
Okay.
So everyone was always saying like, you know, like COVID. Everyone talk about mental health, everyone just goes straight to COVID, which makes sense. But for me, like, life catched up for me before that. It was like when I moved to Berlin, it's like a year or so before COVID. And then obviously COVID did that to everyone. Everyone's at home, like, life catches up with them. It's like, what the fuck is going on now, you know? But
I find that very interesting, because when play live that hour or two on stage every night. Well, today you're playing 2 shows, so it's just going to be more. But those moments and the creative aspect of it, does it help with that mental balance then? Does it create kind of this environment of or some solace in a way where you can escape to? Well, there's a song that deals a bit with escapism, Between You and Me. Yeah. So that do you need the escape in music to kind of get your mind right?
Definitely. I mean, I guess that's the whole thing. It's like it's addictive. Like music is my life. It's always been. It's like also for me. It's like it's in my family too. My dad is a producer, musician. My brother is a musician. So I grew up around music. It's everything, and I love playing live and I love touring. And I guess that's the problem. That I love it so much. So I did it so much, but too much. And too much of anything, never a good thing.
There you go.
But yeah, so I feel like but it's like being on stage now, playing stuff is it's the best thing ever. So and I feel like I learned about do tours, but not crazy, Sure. And it's like I really enjoy being in the studio now as well and creating music, and so I like both, and I feel like that's kind of the climate now too. I don't see you don't it's not many people that tour as much as we used to tour. So in America, we were literally out for 5 years with weeks off here and there and days off here and there.
Sure.
So it's, I don't see many people do that these days.
No, I've recently, in the last couple of years, I've been reading more of even big name artists kind of canceling parts of the tour just because they're exhausted or whatever. Yeah. That's a good sign, I think, that at least people are aware of, well, maybe I should calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing with the mental health conversation is very much in the public eye now, which I think is really important.
Sure.
Because I think so many people are going through it, so I feel like it makes people feel better, and I'm talking about it, because if you don't talk about it like I didn't forever, then it builds up, and then
you kind of ignore it,
Yeah, so I feel like everyone should talk about it if they're going through something, or even if they're not, just to prevent going through something.
But and that's why I asked the connection with music, because I think music can be a conduit or a vehicle for a lot of people to acknowledge those feelings and be able to talk about them with their friends, because you can hear it in songs and know that everybody's dealing with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like it's also my music, I'm hoping, has always been, when you go and see a show, it's not like a doom and gloom. It's quite a positive thing, and it's a nice experience, and it makes you want to bring joy into people's lives and give them nice emotions, And I feel like the music does that, but then some of the lyrics might touch subjects, but in general it's a positive thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Final question then. When it came to the music, because especially, let me do a different final question, because we had the pleasure of talking with Sharon van Etten over the years as well, and she makes lovely music.
Yeah.
What made you decide to cover one of her songs?
So I've been a fan of hers. I think she's great. Obviously, a really great songwriter, one of the best around, And I feel like it was I remember us listening to stuff in the studio, me and Luke, and I saw some video with Sharon van Etten or whatever, and I wrote her something, and then she wrote back a DM and saying that she loved my new single or something. Okay. And that got the conversation. I was kind of chuffed that she said that, and then I was like, oh, it's cool that she likes what I do, whatever. But then that got me and Luke kind of just let's try it. We should try something different in the studio today, kind of thing. And we just did that cover without thinking too much about it, for fun, and then just turned really special, I feel like. And I've never dropped a cover on a record before, but I'm album 7, why the fuck, why the hell not?
Why should I limit myself?
Yeah, so, and it set really good, and the lyrics are really great and kind of fun, and the production, I don't know, it just sat really good on that record, I think.
How did you land on this particular song? Or was it, as you mentioned, kind of not too much thought went into it?
Yeah, not much thought at all, really. I think that one kind of, I guess, song-wise and lyrically, it was pretty close to where we were at in a way, and like it's the vibe of it, and we slowed it down quite a bit as well from the original version, and just made it like our own kind of tune for it. So yeah, I don't think we just jumped on that one basically. It was the one we got excited about.
Fair enough. And then, as you mentioned, kind of in terms of production, you've very much filled it in your own way. And then there's songs like Bloom and Vespertine that have these interesting musical elements. So
yeah,
how did you kind of arrive at those decisions about texture, about kind of filling in? Because the way I heard the album, it's wonderfully produced because you feel all the instruments and the added kind of textures, as I mentioned, but then it doesn't feel too full, it doesn't feel too overproduced. So how do you kind of figure out
I think that's definitely the balance, like trying not to produce anything we're doing, like make it feel kind of natural. I think we didn't really know what we were like. After like Mercy and Sing Ship, we were thinking we were doing like an EP first, but then we had all these songs like Bloom, that was almost like inspired by LCD Sound System and bands like that, like almost like a dancier vibe to it. And Vespertine was like about the late hours of the early hours of the morning in Berlin, just just being out in like bars and just being on a mission. So that's kind of what that one's about. So yeah, I feel like you also want to mix it up and not make, if it was only songs kind of like Mercy and Sinking Ships, it would be too kind of one way and heavy. Right. So I feel like we felt like we wanted to throw in some songs to like make it more of a journey, you know.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Petter, may I thank you again for taking the time to talk with me.
Cheers, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.